Hey, computer science. So to start out this week's kind of festivities, it's the interim assessment 4 week. So everything this week has to do with interim assessment 4. I'm going to send out a YouTube video. I'm going to send out the study sheets from first semester. So all of those show what you know study sheets from first semester. You guys are going to get every single one of those either the end of the day today or early tomorrow. So you're going to get all those study sheets to study, and they're with my correct answers. So with the exact answers that you're going to want to have. So that's a lot of material to study. And remember, with interim assessment 4, everything is up for grabs. I can use anything from any part of first semester or second semester. So particularly for the people who are in here that are new, make sure that you really study all of that stuff. But I wanted to tell you really quick, what is it that you want? What is it that you need to know for this exam? So I'm going to bring up my notepad here, Notepad++. Let's get that up, and then let's see, open up a new one, and then if I need to show you something, I will. Remember what the GUI is. Why in the world would we even want to use a GUI? Why is it better than the command prompt? All right, so know the difference between the command prompt and why we need to use a GUI anyway. What helps you control the way that your files are set up on your computer? Okay, that's another question. If you ran into a file issue, you can't find your files, you don't know where they are, what kind of program is going to help you out with that? So make sure you know that. Another thing is, how do you get help from Python? So what way is it going? If you need something from Python and you need to know something about a function, and you don't want to look it up in the documentation, how are you going to do that? Event handlers and callback functions. So we've talked about this a lot this second semester. I'm going to write one such here, and I'll just say draw, because we'll say that's the name of a function we have, and let's call it on the D key. So remember what a callback function is. Remember, callback functions are like the functions that you call inside of other functions as their arguments. All right, so remember, any word that I am saying, if you do not understand any of these words, please look these up, because these are going to be on the test. So any function that you pass into another function as an argument is called a callback function. All right, so remember, we can call as many functions as we want at the same time. That's the power of callback functions. And then these on keys are your event handlers. They handle events from the user, something that I'm doing, like hitting the D key right here. And remember, we always have to tell Python to listen. So this is an actual function built into Python. We're not just writing this out. We have to tell Python to pay attention to us if we want to call that event handler and that callback function. All right, so remember the difference between notifications and prompts. So remember, a lot of times your computer will pop up and say, hey, you can't open that window, but it's not asking you for anything. That's a prompt versus that's a notification versus a prompt, which will actually ask you for something. So it'll say, hey, what is your age? All right, if your computer pops up and tells you what is your age, it's asking you to input your age, or some kind of input. Is asking you for something that is a prompt rather than a notification. All right, so make sure you know the difference between those two. Trying to think, events. What are the two parts of events? What makes events happen? All right, and it's really tough to type and think at the same time, but events equal conditions and then actions. All right, so those are the two parts. So you have to have a condition be met, then the action takes place, and an action doesn't take place until a condition is met, like striking the D key in order to call this draw function. Striking the D key would be the condition that's been met. The draw function, whatever it does, would be the action. That's what happens when you hit that D key. So that's really important that you know the two steps of those conditions. So not just in game design, computer science as well, events are made up of conditions and actions. And so that kind of segues into interactivity. So how do you make your programs interactive, and what does it even mean to be interactive? All right, so what does that mean when you make a GUI that is interactive? Okay, and just on another side of know the difference between putting three quotation marks. Why would we ever want 3 quotation marks? And yes, there is a reason that we want to do that. So you may want to look that up and find out what in the world is the doc type, and why would I ever want to use 3 sets of quotation marks around some kind of comment. Remember, it's a very special type of comment, so you want to make sure you know that. Remember that all about objects. Remember we talked about classes and objects and how objects have values. All right, and one of the objects is a window. So like this thing that you're seeing right now, this instance of Notepad++ is an object. And it has all kinds of different values that we can't see. But one of the values it has is right now is its active value is set to true. Now you can't see that, but the active value of this window is set to true. And we know that because I can type on it, I can type around, I can click on this window. So we know that its active property is set to true. Now, if we were to set this to false, that may be if we've minimized it or we've brought another window up over on top of it, then we have made this an inactive window. So remember the difference between kind of those hidden properties of objects and things like that. Remember what control flow is. Remember, control flow is, without giving you too much info, it's just how the program flows. It starts at 1 and it goes to 13. So our program runs in order. So how do you manipulate control flow? How can you make Python maybe, instead of running 1 to 13, maybe it runs 1 to 6 and then 6 to 8, 6 to 8, 6 to 8, 6 to 8 over and over a couple times and then jumps out to 9 and runs through 13. So think about control flow and how you can manipulate control flow in Python and just kind of what that is. Remember that, remember the basics. So then now you've got to get back to the basics from semester 1. Okay, so if you need to go back and look at some of those old notes, remember all your different types of bugs. I can tell you that bug questions, these bugs questions, those are going to take up 5 questions on the IA exam. That's a lot, all right? That's 25% of the exam are going to be on bugs. So remember that you have conceptual errors. There are syntax errors. There are input errors. What else were there? There's so many different types of errors. I think there's 6 or 7 types. So if you need to look those up, make sure you remember exactly what bug types there are. All right, so remember the basics, like I said. Remember what an argument is. We talked about that up here. Arguments, functions, all those basic vocabulary words. Operators. What are your operators? What is your operating system? Do you remember we talked about an operating system? Remember the difference between a line of code, which may be right here, and a block of code. Why would we ever, group them into blocks versus individual lines? So why would I want to do that? What does that, and I'm trying to give you guys I wanted to give you the vocab words without giving you too much information. I want you to go look these up. But why would we ever block things of code together rather than just spreading them all out? Remember your basic comments, how you're doing comments, and that should be about it. So if you can, all this stuff that I just talked about in the last couple of minutes, if you know, if it makes sense, if everything, if you're like ready to go, I would recommend taking the exam. If not, remember, a lot of resources are coming out this week to help you study. So I encourage you to wait until Friday until we have gotten all those resources, and we've gone through the review together tomorrow and Wednesday. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this helps you. Rewind a couple times. Make sure that you know all of these. Write down all of these keywords that I have said. All right, so all those GUI, file management programs, help, event handlers. Make sure that you write those down and look them up. If you have any questions, send me an email or you can sign up for a one-on-one session with me. I will see you next time. Thanks, guys.